All right, here we go. Back after a pretty long break. I don't even think we did a Super Bowl episode. We haven't talked in a long time, but much anticipated. I've been looking forward to this since episode one. The mock draft special, supersized episode. We have a special guest, Paul Milo. How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm excited. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, Paul, long time, first time.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, I was thinking today, I would say out of everyone, you're probably the one to have on, but weirdly enough, the one year the Giants don't have a pick, you're here. So, maybe I'll ask for some insight on 25. We'll see. Um, let's see. I'm gonna share my screen and just show my mock and what I got right now. But oof, Paul, what are your thoughts right now on current situation? Rumors flying everywhere.
I mean, that's how it normally is, right? There's always a lot of rumors. I don't know why people are taking so much uh, into account these Reddit posts. Like anyone could actually be posting these, and I'm pretty sure like just random people are. So I can't really trust a lot of sources nowadays,
Yeah,
especially this time.
yeah, I sent that to you too. It was
Yeah.
this random guy. I mean, Levis said today, don't believe everything you hear. I don't know. Jay Glazer saying it's Bryce Young. I think he's still like minus 1,000. So, um, pretty crazy. I don't know. I guess from the start, if we're gonna take this pick by pick, I don't think we need to discuss much of anything about Bryce Young going to the Panthers. Um, at least in terms of a mock draft purpose, I would say it's pretty much a lock. But I mean, as a player, I'm not a big fan of Bryce Young. I don't know about you guys. Um, the size is one thing, but Kyler's small, but he's a super athlete, both in terms of strength of arm and his speed. Um, he's basically a top five in both at the quarterback position. So it's like, okay, we could take a small quarterback if we're getting top five athlete. Bryce Young is going to be, he's an okay athlete. I don't think he'll be top 10 at the position. Um, I don't know who the closest comp would be, but like, I don't think he's much far off from Kenny Pickett last year in terms of an athlete. And then also in terms of arm strength, I mean, Bryce Young's arm strength isn't okay. I think it's troubling. Like you watch him, I get the worst parts of like when Tua throws the ball when I watch Bryce Young throw. Maybe it's because he's wearing an Alabama jersey. Um, I mean, I just don't see it. I feel like it's a lot of faith to put in someone just because they have good poise and pocket awareness. I don't really get it, but in terms of the mock, it seems like he's going one. What do you guys think?
Paul, if you don't mind, I'll take this one because I don't have very much input to offer on the majority of these guys, so I'll provide my points where I actually can. I'll take my wins where I can. I think Dave, just the only thing to add on top of all that you just mentioned, going back to the Kyler comp, Kyler at least like he looks like an athlete, and this is going to be a little bit, I don't know, I don't know how to properly phrase this, but he's just like he's thick, he's thicker than Bryce Young, right? So it's like if he is going to take a hit. I mean, I feel a little bit better about the way that he's been able to respond. Obviously, he's coming off an injury, but that was just a freak open field play, non-contact, right? Whereas with Bryce, I legitimately feel like if he were to get a direct shot to the ribs, like he might just explode. I don't know. I don't know if enough people are even considering that because yeah, obviously they're the same height, but you put those two guys together and it's like very obvious one's an athlete and one is I don't know just a run of the mill average Joe guy. It's
I just don't get it. And like, if Bryce had a good arm, like I'd be fine with this. I don't get what about his game makes him this, minus 1,000 the day of the draft
I think
quarterback.
he's minus 2,000.
Yeah,
I looked
2,000.
earlier. I looked
I
earlier.
mean, this is something that was like off the board like this time last week too. So it's
Right.
like, I mean,
And the fact that
I
Carolina
just don't see
traded
it.
up to get him, like that's what confuses me even more. It's like if this were, I don't know, Trevor Lawrence, Burrow, I guess Andrew Luck, the past three no doubters, then yeah, it would make sense. But like, I don't know. I find it crazy that they were just chomping at the bit to get this guy. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I mean, and like I don't like Joe Burrow, but I don't even think Bryce Young has Joe Burrow's arm. Like you're basically what's the upside here? Like a 5'10", 180 quarterback with Mahomes' pocket awareness and then Tua's arm. Like, I don't know. I just don't get it at that point. But that's what I see in him. And that's if he has Mahomes' pocket awareness, and then not even talking about the injury risk. I just don't get it. But seems like Carolina's taking him one. Fine with me. Number two, I mean, the first big pivot point. I'm going Will Anderson here. I don't know if you guys have seen, but the Tyree Wilson medical stuff is freaking me out.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like he's on his third broken foot surgery now. And not to mention, I think he tore his MCL or his meniscus a couple of years back. I just in terms of Tyree versus Will, I mean, I don't really get the Tyree stuff in terms of you're looking at one of the oldest players, who's just a big guy pushing guys out of the way in the Big 12. I mean, in terms of me, what I'm looking for in the draft, I don't want an old guy who's doing good in his last year of college just because he's the biggest one on the field, right? So even without the medical concerns, and then Will Anderson, I don't think there's much to be said. Yeah, he might not be a 99 percentile athlete, but you can't match that production. So the question is here, though. I mean, Paul, would you take a quarterback here for the Texans?
I don't think so. I don't really like any of the other guys. I think Bryce is the only like one I would be comfortable taking. I think CJ Stroud has a lot of questions. Will Levis has questions, and Richardson's a huge question mark. But I think, especially with Houston, you're not really counted anywhere. Like I don't think they have any blue chip players besides, I guess, Larry Tunsil. I don't know any other young players that come to my mind. Derek Stingley's, I don't think he's that good. They took Stingley over Sauce's pretty bad pick last year. So you need like a clear like blue chip guy, and I think Will Anderson's the safest pick at this point.
Yeah, I'm comparing, thinking about it. The problem with the Texans is you got an owner that's probably on year 4 in terms of he wants to compete, a GM that's on year 3, and then a coach that's on month 2. So like the problem they're so hard to mock for me is just because I don't know how you line up those timelines and figure out which person gets their wish, because I don't think there's any way D'Amico Ryans is walking in saying, yeah, I want a quarterback. Like, how could you want a quarterback? You have the worst team in the league. You're a defensive coach, and you'll be right back here next year with a better class. It's like, I don't know. It's tough. It sounds like if they go quarterback, it's going to be Levis, but I'm going Anderson just because I think he's the best player. Then, the other guys in consideration. I think Wilson's medical is going to have him fall further. And then in terms of a quarterback, I don't think Ryans takes that job unless he has some say over, I don't want to take a quarterback month 2 on the job, right? Like, yeah. I don't know. It seems like a death sentence for a defensive coach to walk in and say, yeah, my win-loss record over the next 3 years is going to be tied to this guy. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Next up, Cardinals. I mean, this is I would say the hottest rumor right now is that, Kyler Murray is essentially demanding Paris Johnson. I don't know if you guys have seen this. And then the other rumor just came out is that the Eagles are hounding teams to trade up for Paris Johnson. So, I mean, hot commodity here. What would you guys do as the Cardinals?
I
would say back to the previous point. I mean, how many blue chip guys do Arizona even have at this point other than Kyler? I mean, D-Hop looks to be on the way out. So I'd personally probably just trade out and see how many picks you can accumulate. Because again, you're probably going to be, as you said, Dave, in the same exact position again next year. When is Kyler expected to be back? I know it's going to be quite a few weeks, right?
Yeah, I bet like week 12.
So again, it's like, well, Paris Johnson is clearly if there is this much interest, it would make sense. But I don't know, maybe trade back. And isn't it been reported that they're kind of dying to get out of that 3rd spot and they just want to accumulate as much as they can? So
them and Atlanta are the open for business. We'll get to Atlanta, but for Arizona, the problem is here. So like looking at this, if it goes Bryce Will, I mean, what team's trading up here to get to get to 3? I think, I don't know, and maybe it's because they're Ohio State quarterback. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to trade up for Richardson. Could someone trade up for Levis? I don't know. I don't know if there's that much faith. I think it would have to be if you're trading up for Levis, because I don't think Stroud's going high, and I don't think Richardson's going high. And then so it's, who's that team that wants Levis? I mean, Vegas, the reports are they're not in on Levis. And then you start going down the list. I mean, I don't think Seattle and Detroit are. Minnesota's not going up from 23. Tampa's not going up from 19. So Tennessee, maybe, but I mean, if they can get out of this pick, I think it's because someone wants Levis. I just don't see a team that wants Levis. Unless the Colts want to lock him in for like, we'll give you a 3rd-round pick or something,
Right.
a 4th-round
That's-
pick.
yeah.
But I don't know. But in terms of what they're gonna do, I mean, Paris Johnson's fine. I like him. He dominated Lucas Van Ness when they played because I was watching that when the Falcons were gonna take Van Ness. But I mean, it's hard to get mad about taking a offensive tackle, but could be a different conversation 12 months from now if they got the number 2 pick, whether they stay with Kyler or not, but not for today. Going next up to the Colts, Paul is going to get Zach on here to talk about his Colts, but do you think Levis is their guy? There's a lot of smoke here.
Yeah, I have literally no idea what the Colts do. I was listening to Chris Ballard, his press conference, just to see what they're doing. He says they're not going to force a quarterback, so I think they take Levis. I don't think they would take Richardson. He's such a project, and I think they want to win. I think Levis is a pick to go here.
Yeah, I kind of the opposite of what I just said for Houston. You don't take that job 2 months ago if you think you're going to have to be forced to take a quarterback. I think Steichen took that job knowing he had to take a quarterback. And it's, I don't know why everyone assumes it's going to be Levis for them. It's weird. I feel like everyone says it's Levis and then no one really actually has a source. They're all just kind of saying the same thing, right? I read something today that said, Paul, your guy, Ed Dobbs is pushing the table for Stroud. But Ballard's a Will Levis guy. So, I mean,
really don't leak stuff. So I don't know how much I put into that.
Yeah, I don't know.
They're one of the few teams.
It's just weird how much. I mean, a month ago, I think Levis was like minus 200 to be QB4, and now he's going pick 4, right, at QB2, and he's probably gonna go 10 picks ahead of Stroud and Richardson. So it's tough. I mean, it's hard to really scout QBs that are this bad in college, right? I feel like it's easier to scout the ones that are good in college and then like say why they won't work. It's hard to look at Will Levis and like, no, yeah, he's gonna work, or no, he's not gonna work. I mean, I'm not a huge fan. I love Stroud, and we'll get to that. But I mean, if you're the Colts here, I think the owner and the GM they're going to be forced to take a quarterback. It's just a matter of, I wouldn't take Levis, but we'll see. I think a lot of people aren't going to be happy with Levis, but that's where the smoke's at right now. So,
do you think they take Stroud then?
There's so much smoke on Levis. It's hard. I mean, I feel like it's a Justin Fields situation from a couple years ago with the. Everyone was saying the Jets were taking Wilson, even though, so many people had Fields above Wilson. It's tough. I don't know what the comparison would be. Maybe a couple years ago, Herbert went after Tua even, which is the weird part, right? Like, I feel like that's the closest comparison, but it still went Tua Herbert over instead of a Herbert Tua, right? So,
yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to make a comparison. It's strange to me how no one ever puts someone other than Levis forward. But we'll see if it's smoke or not.
I got a question for you guys. If Levis doesn't go 4 for whatever reason, let's say it's Stroud, where do you think then he'd actually end up? Because I don't think Seattle. In fact, I guarantee Seattle wouldn't take him.
I mean, that's the other thing.
Detroit would take him. Vegas, you said, was out on him, right? Or they're out on.
They're saying he might go like 19th if he doesn't go 4th.
Yeah,
that's like if that's the case, how can he go 4th?
Right, if that's his range, the range of outcomes is either 4th or 19th.
Well, yeah, it's not even like I mean, I think the rumor is like if he gets to like mid-teens, Tampa's pulling the trigger, they'll trade up. But like, I don't know. The reporting on him just seems way too certain that he's either going 4th or 19th. Like, there's no range of outcomes with him. Like Stroud, I feel like you can say he's going, 2 through 20, or like 2 through 12. Pretty even distribution. He can go any of those picks 2 through 20. But like Levis, it's like, unless the Colts or Bucks take him, he's not getting picked. Like it doesn't make sense.
I could Houston take him at 12 if he keep falling, or depends what Tennessee does at 11.
True. Yeah, I read Tennessee's out on him too, but yeah, Houston. You're right. Houston's the other team at 12.
Yeah.
Which, like, I don't know what you guys think about that. There's mixed opinions. Like, if Houston's taking a guy at 12, they would just take him at 2. And I mean, I don't know. That's what everyone kind of said about Giants at Daniel Jones here. I
Yeah.
think everyone kind of thought they would just take whoever they wanted at I guess they took Dexter Lawrence there, right?
Mhm.
17, yeah.
Which like I don't know. It's a weird line of thinking because like, you know, you're allowed to like I don't know. I think Richardson makes sense at 12. I don't think he makes sense at 2, right? But it's like people really think it needs to be this binary thinking of like if you're comfortable with a guy at 12, you have to take him at 2. And it's like, I don't know, you know, maybe the D'Amico Ryans doesn't want to go all in on a guy, but the owner says, okay, we got to take him at 12 then, whoever's left.
I think also
But-
just the connotation associated with the second pick versus the 12th pick is so different. I don't know. It's like if you take Will Anderson, I don't want to say the guaranteed guy, but certainly more of a certainty than Levis would be. So taking Levis second versus taking Levis 12th, taking him 12th is just kind of like, yeah, you know what? He was there. The value was good. We'll give him a run. Whereas taking him second implies that you're all in on him. So that's kind of curious.
Yeah, right. It's kind of like the Josh Rosen thing. Like it gives you more like, oh, we only took him like 13th. Let's get rid of him.
Mhm.
Whereas like, I mean, I don't know. Bryce Young a year from now is not getting moved off of, right?
Yeah. Zach Wilson.
Yeah. Or even, I mean, like, I would think of it this way too. Like, if Jared Goff's rookie year came from like the 20th pick, you know, then you're probably moving off of him,
Right.
So there's nothing wrong with that. Like, most of these quarterbacks aren't going to work. So why not embrace like, yeah, we don't really know which one's going to work, right? Especially if you're Houston and you know you're going to be bad, like, just make use of it.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know though. Next pivot point, I feel like this is another spot no one really knows.
Mm-hmm.
I got Jalen Carter here. I mean, I find it hard to believe. Most people, a lot of people still have him as the best player in the draft. And if you look at like history, it doesn't matter what the media is saying. If one guy is clearly far and away the best player in the draft, I mean, I don't think he'll fall that far. And I think Seattle's, you know, a good culture fit in terms of, I think they'll walk in and be like, this is the best player in the draft. He'll help us win immediately, and we can get him right mentally. But
Yeah. Do you think Stroud could go there if not Jalen Carter? Young, groom him under Geno.
I don't know. In a weird way, like Richardson, that's the other thing too, where it's like, you know, I really think Stroud's like one of, you know, Bryce I don't really like, but you know, I get him going this high. And Stroud I think's in that same tier, but like in a weird way, doesn't it feel like Richardson makes the most sense for Seattle out of everyone? Like, you know, it seems like a guy Pete Carroll would embrace. You know, you can sit him behind Geno for a year. You don't have to like slow down the timeline at all. It's strange. Paul, what do you think they do here?
Yeah, I think Carter's a good pick. You know, you have obviously all the off the field questions there. The talent there, I don't know their defensive line right at the top of my head, but I don't think that's a strong suit for them. I don't know. I'm not really high on Jalen Carter. I don't think he'll be good in the NFL. I think in my mock I had them taking Tyrese Wilson. I think it's a safer pick. I know there's the medical problems, but just personality wise, I think they'll fit there better. Just the raw talent he has, being like 6'6", like 250, just explosive off the edge. I think that's where they go. But I don't think Jalen Carter goes past like 6, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. They're saying 6 is the floor, which like, I mean, makes sense to me. It's just,
yeah, I personally would not want him going to Vegas just because it's Vegas.
yeah, and they were saying too. I mean, that's the thing with like, if he gets to 8, I think Atlanta has them off the board just because, you know, if you're taking him, you want him running in different circles, kind of, right? And like, if you know, if he's not going to know anyone in Seattle, right? He'll be across the country. They'll just, you know, the hope is he'll be all football. So it's a tough situation. I mean, Seattle's just really tough because everyone says like, oh, they're never going to be up here again, so you might as well take the quarterback now. And then some people say, you know, Pete Carroll's so old, he's not going to waste one of his picks on a quarterback. And it's just, it's hard to, you know, square it now. I feel like that's the theme here, you know, Houston, Indy, and Seattle. I mean, the main decision makers are working with like much different priorities. Like Houston, like we said, we have a brand new head coach and then an owner and GM who's basically on the hot seat. Indy, same thing. And then Seattle, we have a coach that might retire in 2 years, but a GM that's, he can run the team for 15 more years. So it's, maybe I feel like it's a Kyle Pitts situation where there's not going to not take a quarterback and then, hope down the line they'll figure it out, but could be their only chance. Next up, in this scenario, I agree with Paul. It seems like Jalen Carter, they're saying absolute floor will be Detroit. But right now on DraftKings, Devin Witherspoon is minus 130 to go to the Lions, which I think out of everyone other than Bryce Young is the highest odds in the whole draft.
Yeah.
For a player team matchup. Paul, I don't know if you have any takes on Witherspoon. I'm not a big fan. I love Gonzalez compared to him. This is another case. I mean, everyone's saying it's a weak draft. I think, especially in a weak draft, I wouldn't really want to be chasing old seniors that are bad athletes who had a good last year. But what do you think here? Traded your boy
Yeah.
Okuda too.
I know that's why I think like besides Bryce at 1, I think the only other lock is that Detroit's taking a corner, and it's either Witherspoon or Gonzalez. And in my mock, I had Gonzalez.
Yeah, I think they're saying Witherspoon just because the way he plays, but that just seems so stupid. I don't know,
He's more Detroit.
Yeah, they're just gonna take whoever the best player is. I mean, and it's weird to me. So after the combine, Gonzalez was minus 250 to be first corner drafted. And then now it's minus, 180 Witherspoon first corner. Which I don't know. I don't really get it. Witherspoon was a guy. I was watching this one video and it was Witherspoon playing in December. And McShay's yeah, he's going to be a good second or third rounder. And now he's going to be the 6th pick in the draft. Right. So it's, he's small, not a good athlete. He's really old. I just don't get it here. But as a segue into the next player, I love Christian Gonzalez. And the word is Vegas. We'll get to the quarterback, but the word is, let's say if Stroud isn't there, definitely, they're taking one of Witherspoon or Gonzalez is the word, maybe Skoronski. But if word is Witherspoon's number 1 on their board, essentially, and then Gonzalez would be close to tied with an offensive lineman. But I mean, Gonzalez, I think, is my favorite player in the draft to watch. He's insane. I don't know what I'm trying to think of Stingley last year, but Gonzalez moves so smoothly, but he's long and tall. I feel like Stingley wasn't as, I guess big isn't the word, but Gonzalez has just pterodactyl arms. I feel like it's like watching a receiver play corner.
I was gonna say, it looks like Drake London playing corner. I looked him up, David. You were high on him because, again, I don't study prospects quite like you guys do, but this guy enticed me, so I looked him up, and that was the first thing I thought of.
Yeah, he moves so smooth. I mean, he's a junior. He's only 20 years old too on draft day. I mean, I just don't get it. I think he should be pretty high. Maybe even there was word initially he could go as high as the first non-quarterback off the board. So, that's not going to happen now. But do you think Vegas could take Stroud in this scenario?
I personally had them taking a tackle, but this is his first Dave Ziegler, the GM. Last year was his first year and they traded for Adams, so this is his first round pick. So I have no idea what the Raiders are doing. I had them taking a tackle, signed Jimmy G. They signed Jimmy G to a 3-year deal, so I think $66 million. So I don't think they're going to take a quarterback at this moment, but I think they take with this the Northwestern guy. I can't say.
Yeah, Skoronski. Yeah, what about you, Kat? I think they would take a quarterback here. I mean, Stroud is the one guy they're linked with.
Yeah, that was
which makes it tough, but
yeah, no, probably not. But then again, though, it's fun to imagine them not taking the quarterback. I do like your scenario, Dave, that you've painted here. When you sent this to me earlier, I kind of had the chance of thinking about it, and it's pretty fun to imagine Stroud on Tennessee, just kind of going total rebuild and then kind of changing up the style. Derrick Henry, is I mean, I don't want to get off to a tangent, but it seems like he's just more than up for grabs. So
yeah, Tannehill too is the word. They want to get rid of both.
You want him in Atlanta?
I mean, at this point, I think Atlanta's committed to Ritter for better or for worse. But then that's the thing too. I mean, if they want to get off Tannehill, there's no takers,
right?
And that's what makes it hard finding a Stroud and an Anthony Richardson team. who like I don't see anyone that really wants a quarterback right now. Is the problem. Like for better or for worse. I mean, if I'm Ron Rivera, I'd probably want Tannehill, right? That makes sense. But at this point, it's already April and he's not on your team. It's a little concerning. Or it's gonna be May and he's not on your team. So it's tough. In terms, I guess, to close out Vegas, I think they'll pass on Stroud. That's what it seems like 50-50. Most people seem to be having Stroud falling this far now. And then it's 50-50 whether he gets past here. McDaniel's year 2. I think what's becoming the trend for these new hires is that if you don't commit to a quarterback, you're not going to get fired, right? You get like an extra 2 or 3 years as long as you don't pick a quarterback, because your clock doesn't start until you make that first pick, right?
The doomsday clock.
Like Nagy wouldn't have been fired from Chicago if he didn't pick Trubisky.
Right.
And you can make the same case if the Falcons took Justin Fields 2 years ago. I bet Arthur Smith's seat's a lot hotter than it is right now. But right now, like he's on the cold seat just because they don't have a quarterback, right? It's just it's an easy out. And I think that's part of the reason they're doing the same thing again this year with Ritter. It's like, if our clock doesn't start till we take a quarterback, what's the incentive to ever take a quarterback? And it's not really how these teams should be thinking about it. But like, unless you're a team like Houston or Indy, where the owner says you need to take a quarterback, or Carolina, like there's just not a lot of incentive in terms of your job to take a quarterback.
Right.
Like, especially if you can get Jimmy or Tannehill, like, just ride with them. It's tough. But next up, we get to, it seems like, another big pivot point here in the draft. Number 8 pick right now belongs to Atlanta. Bijan Robinson, the favorite. Everyone is saying this is going to be Bijan Robinson. I've listened to basically everything I can. So the GM and the coach had their press conference yesterday. I've been listening to all the insiders, national media, local media, trying to figure out what's going on here. And I can't convince myself they're taking Stroud. A couple of years ago, I could convince myself they were taking Fields at 4. I just really don't see it in the cards this year. I think Bijan Robinson makes sense. I think for what this regime has shown to us so far about what they want to be offensively. And then kind of what I was just saying, your clock doesn't start till you take a quarterback. So let's not take a quarterback. I think they want to try out, and maybe it's not a bad idea, separate from Bijan, but just in terms of Ritter, I think they want to try out this thing of, if we can only pay a quarterback, I think Ritter's cap hits like $800K the next couple of years, right? How good of a team can we build around that? And if you're Arthur Smith and you walk in the door and you can say, I built top 3 offense in the league with Ryan Tannehill, I can build a top 10 with Desmond Ritter. I think it makes sense giving that a try. The problem with Atlanta now is, you've kind of missed your chance to get a quarterback. I don't think they're going to be bad enough to get into the top 5 probably for a couple of years. So the one thing here is kind of like Seattle. If you don't take a quarterback here, I don't think they're getting one. That's not named, Tannehill probably. And they're just going to ride out with Desmond Ritter. But I would say the one quote, it seems like, and the other thing too with this Bijan stuff, the only other people in play, I think Skoronski could go here. I think it's between him and Bijan, unless Gonzalez falls or Witherspoon falls. I think it'd be one of those guys. Tyree too, but it depends on the medical. The only thing I would say about the Falcons, everyone's saying they're going Bijan. I mean, these are the same people who told everyone that they were taking Lamar Jackson for 2 months, right? So I'm not buying it from any of these national media insiders. Who I don't think they really know. Peter King, the one guy. So Peter King's 2 for 2 the last couple of years. He says they're taking Bijan. Weirdly enough, the one person who I trust the most, if Diana Rossini tweets something tomorrow about the Falcons, I would take that to the bank.
All right.
Somehow every year she gets the first leak. So
all right. Well, whenever she does that, send it to us. We can
I'd go with her word. But I would say the common theme right now is that Atlanta doesn't want this pick because I think they're afraid to take a running back this high. And if they can, in this situation, they're moving from 8 to 11. If they can get the excuse of saying, we actually didn't take Bijan that high because we got like a 3rd round pick out of it. That would be their excuse to do what they want to do, which is take Bijan. And then the one thing listened to the press conference yesterday, right? And the GM says, you know, sometimes we'll have a guy and it would be like, we don't want to take him right here, but maybe if we get another pick, we'll take him like a couple spots later. And I don't know if that doesn't say Bijan, I don't know what does. And then the other report that came out today was Bijan is number 1 on their board, but they will not take him at number 8. So, I mean, kind of a twister, you know, but if they're in a situation like this, I don't know who they're taking. If this is the board and say Tyree Wilson failed their medicals, you know, I don't think they're taking Stroud, and then suddenly they're probably taking Skoronski, which is, you know, they're in a tough spot, which leads me to believe, like, you know, if they're sitting there and they're saying we're not taking Bijan because he's a running back, we're going to take a guard instead. You know, I don't know if the positional value is big enough where they're going to be convinced not to take Bijan. But in this scenario, I gave them their wish. I think Tennessee, it seems like, is looking for a quarterback. Tannehill's on the last year of his deal. I think they come out. You know, maybe they want Richardson here. I think they'll want Stroud. They give Atlanta their wish and they get Stroud, and then Bijan goes a couple picks later. I don't know. Is this too high for Bijan?
I don't know at this point. Because it does seem, I mean, everything that I've heard, it's like he's not slipping out of the top 10. So, I mean, I guess in this case, in your mock, he'd be slipping 1 below that. But can you explain something to me? Is it just an embarrassment of riches? But I've heard that Philadelphia is not considering taking Bijan at 10, but like it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility for them to do so. Is that just them saying F you and just going all in on the run game, and because they have so many picks they can afford to do that? Or is that just even more smoke?
It's possible. I mean, I don't know. Everyone says Philly's so analytically driven, they won't.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's what they're saying. They're saying, you know, Bijan is Atlanta, Chicago, Philly, and Houston, and he won't get past 12 at the absolute floor. But I just, you know, I think everyone's saying this is a bad draft, right? Which I can agree with. I think, you know, it's pretty rough looking at, especially in a situation like this. I mean, this is like a doomsday scenario for the Falcons. I think if Gonzalez is there or Witherspoon, they'll take them. Otherwise, we're looking at Bijan trade down.
Mm-hmm.
But like right here, it's like, you know, what's the difference between, you know, if you're going to take Skoronski at 8, you know, why not just take the second best guard at like the 20s, right? You know, are you that certain Skoronski's going to be better? So it's tough. Chicago, they said, might take I think Philly would go line. I think he would get past them. I think Chicago needs line too, offensively specific. But you know, I think it's hard. You know, you're Arthur Smith and you're saying we don't need a quarterback because I can make an offense with Ryan Tannehill. You know, you just made a running game out of Tyler Algier, right? And Cordero Patterson. It's like I don't get it, but you know, at some point this is just way too much smoke. I just think they're too afraid to pull the trigger at 8. I think this scenario, I think they might say Wilson failed their medicals. But I think if one of the corners are there, I think they'll take them over Bijan. We'll see. Paul, would you take a running back, you know, after the Saquon fiasco?
No, I was gonna say that. Like, you gave me so much shit, like during college, that we took running back 2nd overall, and you guys are gonna take one 8th overall. So how does that feel?
I mean, I don't really want it. I mean, the only silver lining is that, like, in this situation, you know, obviously it sucks taking a running back over a quarterback, but since I've accepted not taking quarterback in this situation, what are you really taking Bijan over? Mm-hmm. You know, it's tough. Like I don't. Bijan would probably be, you know, like 8th on my board right here, but you know, at least it's not a situation where, like, if we pass up one of the corners for Bijan, yeah, that'll get me going. I'll be a little pissed. Yeah, I'm pissed about the quarterbacks, but I'm already resigned to that. But you know, we'll see. And then, you know, if they think, you know, we can be competitive this year, they think Bijan could take him to the next level. I mean, it's whatever. I don't think it shows a lot of faith in your decision making process. It's just a decision making process. If you're saying we're only going to take a guy if we can trade down, you know, it's just, that's a scary thought to me. But yeah, I guess so. We got 4 minutes left. We'll come back with a part 2. We'll run through, you know, a couple of the notable teams, and then you know, I guess some bold predictions for the draft after.